Hey there, everybody. You might notice that I am by myself today. And mainly this because I had a little bit of extra time, and there was a news report in the last couple days that I wanted to comment on because I saw a lot of pretty happy, positive reaction among fans to this news on social media and the internet. And I think that a lot of people, especially fans, are not necessarily understanding what this means for them and that it's not going to be a good thing for the consumer, like most things. In fact, if there is ever any development in the content consumption universe that you think this is going to be good for the consumer, I'm here to rain on the parade, to be the turd in the punch bowl, so to speak, and tell you that it's not. And so this little video breakdown, I'm going to go through a very good article from Awful Announcing, and just kind of express some words of warning where someone who's maybe not familiar with the economics of the professional sports broadcast landscape might misread this situation. So, we have this article here from Awful Announcing that Major League Baseball is shopping MLB TV, trying to push for a national streaming package. So if you don't know quite what that means, if you are like myself and you have MLB TV, kind of like the streaming MLB Extra Innings, where you get every game outside of your market that is not on a national broadcast platform, you pay, I believe it was $150 this year for that package. As you might notice, that price is substantially less than the amount that you pay in market to see your home team play all of its games. Again, all of its games that are not on a national streaming broadcast already. So there's been a big call for some time about removing the blackout for MLB TV in market. And what fans mean by that is when they're not aware of the restrictions, they'll sign up for MLB TV, seeing all the marketing and the advertising that says get every single MLB game, and then they hop on and they turn on the Red Sox in our situation, being just outside of Boston, and it says we're sorry, your provider does not allow MLB TV to be accessible in your area. And people get understandably upset because the alternative is that you pay $30 a month if you want to stream. That has led to a lot of calls to remove those blackouts, because that's the idea among fans, is that if you remove the blackouts, I pay $150 a month, I get every single game, including the games for my home team. That is never going to happen, and that is not the way it would work. So let's take us through this article, which the subhead points out that MLB trying to sell its streaming package is another step towards it trying to bring all of its teams broadcasting underneath one service. So as Major League Baseball crafts its local TV future and regional sports cable networks continue to fizzle out, the league is reportedly exploring a deal for its MLB TV out-of-market game service. So this would be not unlike what the NFL or what Apple TV and Amazon Prime have tried to do with the NFL, which is to get the entirety of the sports league's rights within its platform. According to Andrew Marchand of The Athletic, MLB hopes to license the service to a major network or streaming platform. Commissioner Rob Manfred has set a loose deadline of 2028, by which he hopes to combine a majority of teams' live local rights together to sell them to a streamer, most likely, ideally a single streamer for a user. And this would appear to be a major step toward that goal. The move also creates another item that MLB can sell between now and 2028 when its TV deals with Fox and TNT Sports end. After a recent mutual opt-out with ESPN, the league has been shopping a package including Sunday Night Baseball, the Home Run Derby, and the wild card round of the postseason. Now it can include MLB TV in those discussions. So, for instance, if Amazon Prime wanted to purchase Sunday Night Baseball, rights to the Home Run Derby, the rights to the first round of the postseason, they could also potentially add regular season MLB TV into that deal. As of this year, MLB TV offers live viewing of all 30 teams' games out of market. It also offers live rights to 10 teams in market games, following the dissolution of several local regional sports cable networks in recent years. So you may have seen this with your um, uh, Bally networks if you're in one of those markets. But places like Minnesota, Miami, they saw their RSNs essentially go away, and MLB TV hopped on that opportunity and got those rights to have direct streaming to users, YouTube fans from MLB. Back to this article, such a deal would figure to increase MLB's reach and revenue. That's debatable, but we'll get to that. By licensing the entire package of a platform like ESPN Plus, which the NHL did a couple of years ago, to Amazon's Prime Video, for instance, MLB would be able to make the platform available to a broader audience. At the same time, MLB can retain production and technical control, something it has long been an industry leader in since creating MLB Advanced Media in 2000. This is something that is really, I don't even know if overlooked. I think most people who watch sports are unaware that maybe the most valuable thing that MLB has in its streaming repertoire is not the games itself; it's the technology of BAM, as MLB Advanced Media is often called. It's if you've watched any other game streaming product, the MLB is pretty darn good. Which is why a lot of streaming outlets, especially in sports realm, just use a relabeled version of the MLB package. So and that's not really directed to this per se, but it is something that's interesting when we think about the value of certain things and how teams make money. You know, just the fact that the majority of sports revenue comes from TV contracts sometimes is surprising to people. They think it has to do with ticket stubs and popcorn sales and all that sort of stuff, when in reality it's the ESPN and ABC and NBC and those sorts of companies that are really bankrolling professional sports. Long term, back to this article, the league's goal is to host a live in-market rights exclusively through MLB TV for every team. That would take baseball out of the RSN business completely. So there would be no regional sports network. There would be no Yes. There would be no NESN. There would be no Marquee Sports Network providing you the Yankees, Cubs, and Red Sox games respectively. It would all be available through MLB TV. While RSNs are shrinking, in this article as it reads, as more Americans cut the cord, big market clubs like the Yankees and Dodgers place a high value on their local TV deals. It may be a while, potentially never, before the economics make sense for those clubs to bundle with the rest of MLB to sell their in-market rights. So let's think about this. Why are the Minnesota Twins available for their fans to direct stream instead of needing a cable package? Because the cable provider did not see the value in having that programming. It was not high enough value programming. Similarly, the Minnesota Twins are not what is driving MLB TV subscriptions. What drives MLB TV subscriptions is out-of-market access to Yankees, Cubs, Dodgers. And if you want to include some of the other big clubs, you have the Mets, the Cardinals are very popular, maybe the Giants, but it's really those big three. And for that reason, it's not a coincidence that the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Cubs all have their own regional sports networks. They don't have an NBC Sports New York or anything like that. They have their own. And the Dodgers have an enormous RSN deal. So those are the four teams that are providing the greatest value to MLB TV as an out-of-market product. They don't have, or they probably for the foreseeable future don't have an economic motivation to get rid of that and go all in with the other 26 teams. Again, maybe it's 23, 24 teams if you want to get really liberal and, include the Phillies, the, Braves, again, some other really popular teams in that. So for that reason, it's very unlikely that this is going to happen anytime soon, that you're going to have an all-in package. The other thing is that once you do have an all-in package, whether it be directly through MLB or through an intermediary like Amazon Prime or something, it is not going to cost you $150 a year, folks. Like, it is just simply not going to. Because once you include the Red Sox, Yankees, Cubs, and Dodgers into that product, they have to find a way to recoup, equal, or even surpass the amount that they were getting through their regional sports network deals. I'm going to try to, I want to lay out a little math problem for people, because a lot of times folks, they don't quite understand the finances of these TV deals. So if you see here, there's cable and there's streaming. So once upon a time, actually this is the way it still works. But the way that your cable contract works is you pay the cable network, let's say a set amount, it's $100. Let's say you have a $200 cable bill. $100 of it is probably your cable. That's another big mistake that people make is they say, "Oh, I was paying $200 for cable, so I'm gonna cut my cable." No, you were not paying $200 for cable in all likelihood. In all likelihood, you were paying $100 to $120 for your broadband internet access, and then you were paying $80 to $100 for your cable. So when you cut the cord, you're not actually doing away with that $200 deal. You're doing away with half of it. So you still have to pay for your internet, and then you have to pay for your streaming services on top. But in the past, you would pay your cable bill, and let's say out of $100, if you would pay, let's say, $4 a month for your RSN. Okay, so out of your $100 that goes to your cable program, about, let's say, on the low side of $400 a month goes for you to get your Twin Cities RSN, okay? And that's every single cable subscriber. So, you have every single solitary cable subscriber paying that. It's if you're a decently sized cable provider, let's say you've got 10 million subscribers, okay? Not all of them watch Twins baseball, if we're staying with the Twins, but every single one of them pay. So through that generates, let me see, 400, that's 400 million, right? 400 million in revenue? Yeah. No, sorry, 40 million. 40 million. Still a big number, all right? 40 million in revenue. When you go to streaming, right now, the direct-to-consumer Twins product is $20 a month per subscriber. So looking at that, you might think, wow, they're going to be making out like bandits. They really want streaming. They want streaming to be the way that people consume, and it's absolutely true. If there's a choice between $20 a month and $4 a month, one is 5 times more than the other, literally. That's absolutely where they want to go. So you might look at that and think, wow, they're really making out. In reality, there's an opt-in that you have to do when you're talking about streaming. So let's say they have 10,000 subscribers. It's whatever the number, it's going to be far, far less than the automatic 10 million subscribers you get via a cable bundle. Um, you're going to have people that actually log in, put their email, their credit card number. There's a lot of steps that they have to go through in order to sign up and give you that $20 a month. Again, hopefully my math this time is a little bit better. But if I do $20 a month times 10,000 subscribers, that is 200,000, correct? I believe that's 200,000. Big number. If you're you or me, probably, but not really if you're comparing it to what they were getting before. And this is the reality of the trade-off, that if a team is getting in the millions, the tens of millions, more than that, if you're a team like the Dodgers, selling them on going to streaming, you have to really, really, really make it worth their while. And honestly, the economics have not worked out in that way for the most part. So, again, we can continue to go through this article a little bit more. It concludes the league is getting a head start on the experiment by putting MLB TV up for auction now. One would expect that an initial licensing deal would be shorter, perhaps to align with the 2028 expiration of the Fox and TNT deals. But this move marks the beginning of a new era for watching baseball, which is true, absolutely true. If this is something where it's like the NHL is now, where you get the NHL out-of-market games are provided through ESPN's app. It absolutely could be game-changing. But to go back to what I was saying before about the money they would have to make up, it is not going to be at $150 a year, folks. It's going to be at a much, 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 much increased price point if we're talking about all the teams, if we're talking about those marquee teams that everybody wants to watch, that really the majority of people who subscribe to MLB TV want to watch. The plurality, if not the majority of fans who are subscribing to that are the Cubs fans, in Montana and Arizona and Florida and all that. The Yankees fans in Texas and Louisiana and California. It's that diaspora of those enormous fan bases that are bankrolling that right now, and it's probably not even a gigantic money making enterprise. The majority of streaming platforms do not make any money, and in many cases lose money, mainly because it's just a technology that the public has said that they want. And so therefore a lot of studios, sports leagues, what have you, have one just because you got to be there if you're going to be a legitimate content business. So is there a world eventually where MLB TV is provided through Amazon Prime? Absolutely. But it's not going to be for the same $120 price point that you now get through Amazon Prime. Is there a world where one day every single team, including your in-market teams, are available through MLB TV? Absolutely. But it's not going to be at that $150 price point that you currently pay. And, we've seen this all over the place. We've seen this with cable. We've seen this as, people cutting the cord and going to streaming, and now, paying 6, 7, 8 different streaming services $20 a month, and they're not saving any money, any money at all. In a lot of cases, they're paying more than they ever did with cable. And that's just the way it's gonna go. I'm not saying that is something that is good or bad. I'm saying it's something that cannot be avoided. If you think that you are going to win out as a consumer, especially when there's things like this where there's millions, billions of dollars flying around, no, in the long run, any loophole that you find, they're going to find a way to close up. And, piracy is a thing. It does exist. I get it. The fact of the matter is, though, that the low cost way, if you're going to do things legally, by the book, and have that convenience of an app that is not pirated, so therefore you can usually expect it to work. Like there's not that one day you're going to fire it up and realize that the content isn't there anymore, or the quality isn't as what you thought it would be. If you're going to go the legit route, you're going to have to pay for it. There's not really stuff for free when it comes to the world of sports, and I know that that's a tough pill to swallow. But once upon a time, people were saying, "Oh, it'll be so great when I can get out from under this cable bill." Before that, people were saying, "Oh, it'll be so great when one day I can watch every single game and not just the select few that get on CBS, on the over the air every weekend." There is a price to be paid for all this additional convenience that you get, and you're going to continue paying that price because the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Cubbies, they're not just going to, out of the goodness of their hearts, give up the vast amount of money and resources that they're getting because of their popularity. That's basically carrying a product for the entire league just because you, as a fan, want it all in one place. So, again, I'm sorry. This is the turd in the punch bowl, but I thought it was a good topic. It's something that perhaps leave a like, leave a comment. We can talk about it on a future episode with the guys on the NPC Sports Podcast. But for now, this is me being negative Nelly. I thought it was an important thing to note. And sorry.